Authored an op-ed this weekend arguing for a hard property tax cap. He is the 2006 Republican gubernatorial candidate, John Faso, also a former Assembly Minority Leader.
Nice to be with you, Elizabeth.
Nice to be with you, too. So you may be one of the few people who has not yet given up on a tax cap. I'm just saying. I'm just saying you still think it's possible.
Well, I do. I think it's a policy result that New York needs. I mean, our property taxes are over 70% higher than the national average. Property taxes are high in the downstate counties, and we know they rank in the top 10, the main 4 suburban counties around the state. But one of the things that I think is really shocking to people is that if you calculate the tax burden as a percentage of the home value, in other words, how much in taxes am I paying relative to the home value in the county in which I live?
Right.
Out of 3,000 counties in the United States, the top 10 tax counties by that measure are in upstate New York.
Okay, but arguably you're a Republican, right? And
That's right.
You're actually not a suburban district, but, you know, I mean, sort of, one might argue.
My district, the district I used to represent in the legislature was rural and suburban.
Okay. Do you agree with some of those people who say actually this is a stronger issue politically for the Senate Republicans not to see get done because they can bang the Democrats over the head with it?
You know, I'm out of politics, so
stop, John.
I don't. But the fact is I think that it's the right policy prescription. When I ran for governor in 2006 against long odds, I offered this, and I think that it's the right thing. I applaud the governor for doing it, and I applaud the Senate Republicans for passing it.
Yeah, but in order for this to get done, it might require some negotiation, and it looks like the Senate Republicans aren't open to negotiating. So I ask you, is it better to get something of a tax cap that perhaps is not the hard cap that you're advocating exactly in order to get the Assembly Democrats to pass it, or have no cap at all? If your alternative is watered down versus nothing at all, well, Dean Skelos says nothing at all.
In my view, Senator Skelos has the right position. We should have a tax cap, and we need mandate relief in order to allow school districts and local governments to live within the tax cap. Because you can't just simply impose a cap on them and say, well, now you have to continue to spend the revenue or have your expenditures go up the same way they're going now because of Albany mandates. So you need to have both. But I think the Senator Skelos' position is exactly right. And why negotiate against yourself?
Well, that's exactly the point, right? I mean, and then subsequently, when it doesn't pass, you take the high road and say, yet again, Dean Skelos can say, well, I was on the same page as Andrew Cuomo, and the Assembly Democrats, Sheldon Silver et al., was not on the same page.
The bottom line here is that the tax cap is the right solution for the right reasons. It's been in Massachusetts for over 30 years. It's not like Proposition 13 in California, which I don't support. That was an entirely different mechanism. That basically said if you bought your house 30 years ago, you don't have a higher assessment today than when you bought it. And yet the person who moves in across the street who has a house that's valued exactly the same, that person, the newcomer, pays much higher taxes. The tax cap is a limitation on spending and on how much the government can raise in order to promote spending.
Well, it's not a limit on spending, actually. I mean, the cost of providing services does not change. The school district still has a finite number of kids, or a fluctuating number of kids, up, down, et cetera,
right,
to educate, right? But they just have less money to do it with.
Well, they have to do it within the means of the taxpayers. They're saying simply that you can't raise your taxes, which in essence means your spending, more than 2% in any given year, and if you want to go above that, you have to put a specific proposal to the voters to say, here's what we'd like to do with that extra spending and this extra tax authority. But it forces the government and the school districts to live within what is more modest. And the alternative is to continue this dizzying increase.
And most people agree with you that they're getting taxed out of their homes. However, history shows in Massachusetts that wealthier communities have more frequently say, you know what, I would like to actually get taxed more and blow a 2% tax, get 2.5 in this particular instance in Massachusetts. The problem is that low to middle income communities less frequently actually vote to tax themselves more. And then their kids get fewer services than the rich kids do.
Not necessarily. They're forced to be more economical in the way they deliver those services. And this is one of the reasons why the mandate relief is so significant. So much, 75%, Liz, of the spending at a school district level is salaries and benefits, and that's how it should be. because it's a labor-intensive thing. But it doesn't presume, I don't presume, and I don't think your viewers should presume, that all of that spending is now being spent efficiently, that all of those benefit levels are being done in an efficient way. I mean, I've used this example many times. Buffalo. In the Buffalo School District, they pay for elective cosmetic surgery as part of their contract. So these are the reforms that we need so that we can push the reset button on contract negotiations and how benefits are distributed and how benefits are allocated. It doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily follow that you get less education.
You know what's interesting, though, and I opened this up by quipping that you might be the only guy who actually still thinks it's possible, but there is a discussion now. Of course, there's this 2-week recess that we have. The legislature took an extra week of vacation, and there's a lot of talk about gay marriage. Gay marriage, gay marriage, gay marriage. Every single day I'm getting press releases about the new gay marriage coalition. This one is joining, that one is joining. Zero about tax cap, with the exception of you in Newsday and an op-ed. I mean, it seems to be off the burner when they come back.
It's not off the burner. This is the single most important issue. The level of taxes that New Yorkers pay, not just individuals and homeowners, but businesses. There was a prominent restaurant here in the Albany area where one of the reasons this restaurateur, after 20-plus years, closed down, he said property taxes were a big issue for him. And by the way, remind me, one of the things that I'll do is never open a business in New York State again. People are beating a path for the exits in New York State, and one of the main reasons is because taxes are too high, it costs too much to run businesses, etc. And the tax cap is integral to bringing this state more in line with our competitor states. And that's why people from Governor Andrew Cuomo to the state Senate Republicans to various think tanks on the outside all think and all say that the tax cap is integral to our economic success.
You actually give me an opportunity for a segue that brings us to a political side of this conversation. One of the people who threatened to leave, well, obviously Tom Golisano did, right? He's a very wealthy individual who was involved with politics, said, too high, sorry, I'm leaving residency in Florida. Another person who was very upset, particularly with the PIT increase in millionaires tax, Donald Trump. So now I have to ask you, since you're a New York Republican, prominent guy in the party, what do you think of Donald Trump and his presidency? His potential presidential candidacy, I should say.
Well, I don't support him. I don't think he's, in my view, a serious candidate with serious issues being enunciated, saying that we're going to close the national deficit and the national debt by taxing the Chinese. I mean, it's just kind of like jingoistic, simplistic politics. The business about the birth certificate is ridiculous. But look, he has a right to run. He's got prominence. He's got what a lot of people would kill for in politics, which is media identification and name identification. That's your description, not mine. But
sorry.
I don't believe that he's a serious candidate. But hey, it's America. It's a free country. Anyone can run.
But does it not speak, in a serious way, though, does it not speak to the weakness of the GOP field, that you've got this guy who's a celebrity on television and a real estate mogul, and everybody thinks he's fantastic? I mean, what about, does anybody even know who Tim Pawlenty is?
Look, I've said to people all the time, when Ronald Reagan was running in 1979, a lot of people, especially in the East, said, "Oh, who is this crazy, jingoistic, militaristic kind of guy?" You're
undercutting your own argument, John.
No, but the fact is that Ronald Reagan only became Ronald Reagan after he became president and after he accomplished certain things. It takes time. I think there's fertile opportunity for Republicans to emphasize jobs, taxes, and the debt. We are literally spending ourselves into a situation where you can't sustain it nationally. Under President Obama's approach, he would have government running deficits till 2020 that are unsustainable, would be at 100% of the GDP in national debt by 2020. He would, on a historic basis, where we've always had government spending at about 20 to 21% of the GDP, he would, on a historic basis, keep it at 24%.
Okay.
It's well beyond what the country can afford. So whether it's Donald Trump or Tim Pawlenty or Mitt Romney or Mitch Daniels, who's someone that I personally admire and think would be a great candidate as well, let them all go out there and fight it out.
Okay. Well, we shall see. I want to thank you very much in the meantime, John Faso.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.